TBRI.
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 TOVD.
TBRI.
TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention.
TBRI is an attachment-based,
Trauma-informed intervention
that is designed to meet the complex needs
of vulnerable children.
TBRI uses empowering principles
To address physical needs,
connecting principles for attachment needs,
and correcting principles to disarm fear-based behaviors.
While TBRI is based on years of attachment, sensory processing, and neuroscience research,
the heartbeat of TBRI is connection.
Hello, Reba. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Sarah. Thank you.
How you doing today?
Good.
Good. Awesome. Will you introduce yourself and just kind of tell people how you came to know TBRI?
Sure. My name's Reba, and I work at Restoration Rome, which is in Georgia. And I was lucky enough to be trained as a TBRI practitioner in 2019. Flew to Texas for that. I was introduced to TBRI through Hope for the Journey before I started working at Restoration Rome. And it was one of the main motivators for me to want to be here and be involved with what Restoration Rome is doing, to be able to serve foster and adoptive families and ultimately birth families through that really TBRI informed lens. So.
That's awesome. I know that, so we've had Jeff and Mary Margaret on, and we will certainly, link their episode in the show notes if people want to go back and hear in detail more about Restoration Rome. But can you give us just a 30,000 foot view of what you guys do there?
Yeah. So we're located in an old school building that's been renovated to be a collaborative nonprofit hub. So we have multiple organizations serving inside this same physical space. The building is called Restoration Rome, but we have tons of different agencies that are operating here inside the building that already have their own capacity, their own strength, their own kind of wheelhouses.
Okay.
Serving in just all different varieties of ways. YMCA has programming here. Bloom. We have therapists here that are on site, the local Commission for Children and Youth, et cetera. And they're all providing different services for the big picture involved with foster care. So some people support and recruit foster families. Some of us are supporting and educating our birth families. And then some of the people that are having services here specifically are supporting our children who are in foster care, who are at risk for coming into foster care.
Yeah, I love it so much. So the first time I went to Restoration Rome is when my oldest was touring colleges. And she was looking at Barry right there in Rome, Georgia. And I was like, it was when maybe a quarter of the building was built out at that point. And then I came back like a couple of years later and the whole office suite for all the nonprofits was built. And I was like, this is a completely different building. It was like a vision, and then it all of a sudden turned into reality. So it is really incredible to see all of those different organizations, literally everybody that touches potentially the life of the kids you guys are serving could be in the same building together at any given time. And I just think that is just really, really incredible. Yeah. So today I think we're primarily going to focus, unless I get sidetracked, on what it's like to work with the birth families within your programming, maybe some of your personal opinions about how we respect them best. I know when I started working in foster care, I don't know, maybe a solid 20 years ago now, it's been a minute. We had pretty negative attitudes about the birth families, and I have a pretty significant regret over that. And so part of my journey has been to really understand the dynamics of birth families more. What does that work look like for you guys at Restoration Rome?
So one of the supports we have for birth families is a parenting class that we offer that fulfills their court order requirement for attending a parenting class. And most of the parents that are in our county are, one of their requirements for completing their case plan is to attend a parenting class. And so we do see a lot of the families in our county, at least through that parenting class. And then we also provide supervised visitation services here that and that just means like where the parent and their children come here to see each other in our space. And when families visit here, they get a family success manager, and they have like a whole support team through that service. So they come early and they stay after their visits each time to discuss their case plan and get referrals for resources, and just some coaching on some ways that they can interact with their child in like a healthier way. And so they can get just the class, or they can get the visits as well, or sometimes they just have. Yeah.
So it's so fascinating because I was thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking back to when I was first learning about foster care, and I had a lot of misconceptions about the kids, about the families, about the system, the whole thing. I just didn't know. And now it's like, and the attitude, I think, as a whole from the system used to be about removal. Now I think as a whole, we're really about trying to keep families intact as much as possible. Yeah. But I was thinking about the difference between a family showing up for services several years ago, being met with all kinds of complexities, and this still happens, right? Like they have to take a bus route across town, right? The whole thing, which means they can't work that day because they spend half the day traveling, versus being in their community, having their needs met outside of just that hour of visitation or 2 hours or whatever, with some case planning support and coaching. What do you think that experience is like for them?
One of the things that I love that we meet high level needs, but sometimes we're meeting like the basic need for a family. I mean, many of our families show up and say they haven't had anything to eat all day, or they're kind of grumpy, or they're, feeling a little chaotic. And we spend our parent coaching time of like helping them get regulated. Helping them find some water, let's go track down a snack. And especially when kids first come into care, our parents are in a state of chaos. Their life has just been completely uprooted and may have already been a little chaotic, most likely was, before the kids came into care. And then once kids are removed, we often see families, whatever is left, really like implode or explode in their life. Right. And so they're often homeless, often without transportation, often without income. And we meet people where they are. And sometimes it can be frustrating. But we build trust with families by meeting them where they are and hearing them and helping them know how to communicate what they need. And so we usually start out by assuring them we're here for you. We're not here to punish you. We're here to provide you with the one thing that you want, which is to see your babies. And we hope that you'll participate in this other part of it where we get to coach you and work with you and love on you as well before and after your visit too. So it takes a few weeks for families, and they'll really begin to feel safe at Restoration Realm over time by helping assure our staff your time is well spent if you simply meet their needs before and during and after a visit.
How big is the team at Restoration that does this?
That does the visitation between the visitation and the parenting class. There are 5 or 6 of us, kind of full-time role.
Okay. So is it hard to convince people, or do you guys naturally attract the right people that like, this is how we're going to approach this? Yeah.
Yeah, we have, our staff are all in. Okay. Probably could teach TBRI better than me, They come, I feel like everybody at Restoration Realm kind of, there's like that glowing bulb of TBRI that we're all like, I feel that. And they come here because they want to be a part of that way of serving and loving on families. And so I can confidently say like all of our staff are amazing and really like have that in their hearts already. And so they get it. And
Yeah.
we learn each week, we learn from each other about like how can we better, you know, like how can we use TBRI in this situation too. But I know plenty of people that it is hard to convince them to use TBRI, but like thankfully with our staff, I mean, you know, they're all in.
Yeah. Tell me, okay, let's back up. The parenting classes, so most of them are state mandated or based on their service plan, court ordered, mandated to attend parenting classes. You offer them right there in the building in their community. Is there childcare during that time, or do any of them have kids still at home?
So everybody, well, every once in a while there's some exceptions, but most of the time when parents are taking our classes because their kids have already been removed from their care.
Okay.
And the kids are in foster care or they're placed with a relative. And so we don't generally see a need for childcare.
Okay.
However, there have been like instances where somebody's kids come home halfway through and we figure it out, you know, like we're like, bring them on, we'll tuck them somewhere, or, you know, we help find volunteers that are willing to hang out with kiddos while we have class. But generally, like, we don't need childcare yet.
Okay, that makes sense. And I know your classes are all TBRI rooted. Do you make adjustments? Because, you know, one of my fears once I began to understand the pain of the birth families is how they experience hearing about trauma and that they, you know, may have some responsibility in that. And my assumption is these people walk in the door full of shame. And so, like, how do you guys adjust and make sure that you're, you know, caring for them?
I appreciate that you're even asking that, you know, and that awareness of families carrying so much shame is a major way that educates us in how that we approach them. I usually try to go ahead and acknowledge early on, like what they might be feeling, which is shame, and recognize that feelings of shame are really common. And we do talk a little about how some of their upbringing may have them more prone to feelings of shame anyway. There's a little bit of attachment, but we start the classes usually by talking about ACEs and just explaining how adverse childhood experiences have such a profound impact on your physical health. And that leads us to ask, like, how might it also affect your emotional health? And we frame it of what might have happened to you. We don't really even bring up their kids for a little while. We talk about them and let them be able to, in a safe space, acknowledge like what their life was like as a child. And I always say, you know, we're not here to talk bad about your mamas. It's okay for you to be honest about how it felt to you, because a lot of people have, you know, they can't even fathom. My mom was doing the best she can. Of course she was. Of course she was. And it's also not okay that you were treated that way. Those things can both exist, and we let them know that, and that they matter, you know, and that we don't feel judgmental toward them in the way that they probably think that we do. You know, we recognize that they're humans that were once babies that had a really hard time when they grew up with the strategies that they were given as kids. And it helps people be able to be realistic and be honest, to be able to then understand child maltreatment of, oh, I see how it affected me. And now I can look at it with a little bit broader picture of how it might affect our kids. And sometimes they'll get there without us ever even bringing it up. But for the first few weeks, we don't even bring up babies yet. We talk about them and their upbringing.
Brilliant. It really is, because, like, I mean, the person sitting in front of you is deeply wounded, right? And the guilt and the shame and the pain and the history and all of that coming together. Like, the last place anybody wants to land is on one of our doorsteps. And I would venture to say, for families in that level of distress, the best place they could land is on your doorstep, right?
Yeah.
Because their needs are going to be met with so much depth and compassion and understanding. Because I do think we're trying to shift the the lens from these are bad people to these are severely harmed people. I mean, I have never in 20, oh, too many years now. I don't even want to say the whole number, but in all of the years of working with kids and families, I've never seen a parent that didn't love their kids.
Right.
You know, and it's an easy assumption to make based on circumstances. So I love that they land on your doorstep because what a different experience that is for them.
Yeah.
So they go through 10 weeks of parenting classes, and that meets the requirement for the court order.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell me about I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
It was just, we make it at 12 weeks,
12.
but they have to attend at least 10 weeks to be able to graduate.
Okay.
And that's the requirement. You know, we don't do a lot of testing. We don't, they have to participate, but as long as they're there for at least 10 of the 12 classes, families can graduate. They can receive a certificate that will then suffice to court. And it kind of seems punitive, but it really helps people to have like a structure in mind to know, like, I got to carve out whatever else is going on in my life. And for someone who is in just complete chaos, if they can make it to one night a week, right, and they can finish out this one thing, it really helps them to have a sense of self-confidence after they have like been able to complete it. But we also can help address some things, like help explain some things to them too.
Right. Yeah. I like the idea of like you get 2 misses too, because again, some services are so regimented and it's hard. I mean, it is hard to carve out the time. If you're working in a job that you work in the evenings, you're having to manage your shifts and all of that stuff. And so I like the idea of like, you missed 2. Just 2 though.
That's it.
A little bit of nurture and structure there.
Yeah. We also like people, this is one of the things I love, like, but if you come to all of them, you get a special certificate that says you have perfect attendance. And people love that. You know, I can't tell you how many times I have just like wept at the end of a class because people are telling me this is the first time I've ever graduated from anything. But that's perfect attendance, you know? And to be able to give that gift to them of like, you did this, you showed up, you know, and you went above and beyond. You know, like you came to 12 classes instead of the minimum of 10. Feels so good to them to know that they could do it and that they did it on their own work, you know. And so many of our families, when they say that's the first time I ever graduated from anything, you know.
And they're graduating from something to literally get their babies back. Right. So like it's it could like what is a horrifically scary experience. People are coming to every dang session that you're offering and showing up early and staying late to get their needs met. I'm getting a little emotional. Sorry. What can you talk a little bit, because I've been there and I've seen it, but the way that you guys do visitation is really unique. So many of our families get court-ordered visitation, like an hour, maybe 2 a week, and sometimes more than that. Can you share a little bit about y'all's visitation space and what that looks like?
Yeah. So one of the first things that was built out at Restoration Rome when we were going from school to Restoration Rome was our visitation center and some of the other services in that same space. We call it the care center, the comprehensive care center. And there are several rooms that are designed to look like they would in someone's home. Their living room, there's like living room furniture and pictures on the walls and lamps, and there are little toys, like age-appropriate toys in each room. There's a kitchen, like we call it the visitation kitchen, that just looks like a nice kitchen in somebody's home. It has like an island in the middle and has a big dining room table. And then we have a little nursery for tiny babies with rocking chairs and books. And there's also an arts and crafts room where families can come and do crafts and like handprints and things like that to be able to send home with mom or dad, so that they have little memorabilia. The whole space is recorded with like video and audio. And so while we're performing like a really rigid and very safe, very supervised service, it feels like home. It feels comfortable, and it becomes to feel very familiar to parents and kids. And that's on purpose, because we know it takes a little while for them to even begin to feel safe, with given the situation they're in. We want them to be able to become comfortable, lay back on the couch. We got bean bags in the rooms, whatever that looks like for families, so that they can, snuggle in and like be themselves. But still like holding them to accountability. Like at the end of each visit, we think like, hey, how might we have addressed little Johnny, differently? Or could I suggest that we try using a redo here instead of, being aggressive with your voice or whatever.
Well, I just love it. And I think like there are two rooms that always sort of attract my attention. One is that kitchen, because right, the families can like bring stuff to prepare dinner, and we know one of the things that our kids really miss is whatever mom cooked or dad cooked or aunt cooked, or whoever that adult was that was caring for them. And so the fact that they can like roll in, prepare a meal, have a meal as a family, and it's what the kids are used to, and it's just a time kind of around the table breaking bread, and I think that's beautiful. And then of course I also love the nursery. Like it's dim lighting, it's quiet, it just feels like a really special place. But it really does feel like home. And if you've been in a visitation area, and none of this is to knock what our child protective services people are doing, because I think we all know they are completely overwhelmed and have no budget, right? So this is not a knock on it. This is actually like kind of the call to action of like, how can we come around? But most of those offices it's very sterile, a lot of broken toys, almost smells like, now post COVID, it all smells like Lysol. It's overwhelming. You know what I mean? And so I think the idea of coming into a home environment that has the safety features of being recorded. It's no secret that it's all being recorded. I mean, it's not obvious, but they know. And that's full transparency. They know what's going on. I think even you have a conference room in the middle that's all glass for safety, so that everybody can see what's going on. And I just feel like that whole environment is set up for literally to support those three pillars of regulation, connection, and felt safety. And it is so beautiful to see. And I remember last time I was there, I got to talk to a mom who was like preparing for that time, and before her visit, meeting with the team, waiting, and she was so happy to be there. She sang a song for me. It was really, really beautiful. And it just felt like somebody pulled me aside and said, we're about to give her really devastating news, but this is the place to do it. Right. And so nobody's leaving here today until she's okay. And so it just felt like this is a place to come and be held, and know you're precious and you're worthy, and no matter what happened. It's so good.
Yeah.
What else? So you've got when they're done, are they done? So they graduate the 12 weeks. The family visitation goes on longer than that, I'm assuming, for the duration of the case. So they aren't just done with that class. They come back for visitation. They stay in relationship
with your children. They get to then try to like implement the practices they learn in classes with their kids and their FSMs. Their family success manager knows, like, let's try to use a little bit of this you guys talked about, right? So you're having to like break what you are used to and now use what you know, right? Like if we're going to try to let go of this old strategy, let me make sure you remember what your new strategies are. We talk about this a lot, that like our staff are wonderful. They care specifically about these families, about their history, about we're viewing these grown-ups as babies, right? And so they can feel that. They know. And we talk about this a lot, that for a lot of our families, sometimes, not always, but sometimes they're getting the first healthy relationship they've ever had in their whole life with their FSM. And it's for sometimes they're meeting with someone for the first time that doesn't want something. Like they're not trying to take advantage of them, and they're not trying to sneak around them and do something that's, they're, after a few weeks and they realize like this person is authentic. This person is really treating me human to human. They are so much more open to learning, right? And they sometimes we feel like the parents are coming, and this is, I know it might sound silly, but they're as excited to see their FSM, their other healthy relationship in their whole life, just like they are their kids, because they're finally experiencing what safety feels like, what does an authentic and true relationship feel like. And our FSMs will they'll be bringing stuff from their own house for these kids to do in their visit, because they want to show these families what does healthy interactions look like, right? So they're bringing their own kids' Lego sets and showing them how to sit together and do teamwork to build something, right? Or they're helping them make little fingerprint paint, right? Or they're helping them, teach their children how to stack blocks and do it with them, or teach them how to play hide and seek or whatever. And I laugh with one of our FSMs. We're like, well, are we making it too easy for them? Like, are we doing the visit for them? Like, are we? And I mean, it's sometimes you have to be careful of that. But I said, like, when I think about myself, like as a mom with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, I would love to show up somewhere for someone to show me, like, have this fun activity planned out for me. Like, show me how to put this in practice. I'll try it here with you, but now I know how in the heck to even do this kind of game with my kids in the future. And this will probably be my go-to later on, because I remember how it felt. And I remember all those good feelings that I felt with you laughing and me laughing, and I want to replicate that later. And we realize, like, sometimes for our families, this is their first time experiencing that. We're showing them because they've never known.
I mean, if you think about that attachment cycle that you're teaching them, the same thing is happening for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they cry, need expressed, meet the need, they calm down. And over time, they feel safe and they become more and more attached. And of course, they're coming back for more. I mean, how would you not? I mean, right? I think that's what we all do. Like, I mean, I think about, for me, like there was a teacher in high school who was like a safe person for me. And I was like, I probably drove her nuts, because I was like, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me. Oh, this is what this feels like. And I just feel like for families that are that far along in adulthood, and they have babies and kids and teenagers and, all in between. But, when I say babies, I mean all of them. But to come to a safe place and have their needs met. And it's just like this, like, humanness to it, right? Like, you are a human at your core. And I remember I was talking to a friend of mine, you might know her, Jamie DeLuna, but she used to work with us, and I was upset with myself, and she was like, well, it's a good thing you're a human being, not a perfect being. And it's like, if we just wandered around, like, looking at everybody being their human being and meeting their needs, it would be a totally different experience. Oh, I just love it so much. When I walk into that building in little old Rome, Georgia, it feels good. Right? Like, it feels like my needs are going to be met there, and I'm not a client. Like, I know exactly what to expect. And I think from the kids in the Y all the way up to, the kids you're serving in the community, and the lunches in the summers and everything, it is just really, really beautiful. But I know it's not easy. Like, I don't want to glorify, that, like, it's hard. Right. It's hard to be the one sometimes sitting there teaching somebody how to play Legos with their kids. So, I don't want to downplay the effort you guys have put in. Reba, do you have a favorite story?
We had like a family who had a young daughter, and then they also had an older daughter, and their older daughter had just had a child. And so they're the parents had just had a case open, and they had she was about 7 that they were visiting, but then their oldest daughter had also had her child, and he was also in foster care. And so they would actually visit on, same day of the week on opposite ends of the hallway, and sometimes the same end of the hallway. And just getting to watch that family get healthy from mom all the way to grandbaby was just just such a joy. And that, that was just one of my very favorite relationships that I have in my life, is that whole little unit. They're very authentic folks and just really welcomed, like, hey, I love Restoration Rome. I can tell you care about me. So I don't know if I'm going to like what you have to say. I'm listening. And that's it. Like, that to me is that you cannot ask for a better picture of doing it right. These folks just love their babies enough to do whatever, change whatever kind of pattern that had been ingrained in them for however long. And still to this day, like, babies are home. All the babies are home now, and still like check in with Restoration Rome and tell other folks, about like supports that are available to them, that they don't have to keep doing life the way that they're used to. And very authentic folks, and authenticity recognizes authenticity, and being able to see them over time realize, like, I'm so safe, like I'm safe enough that I can truly be my authentic self and get my authentic self as healthy as I can be. So that family all like did the required classes of parents, the 12-week parenting, came back for more with Making Sense of Your Worth, came back for a second round of Making Sense of Your Worth, really like eating it up. Like, I can tell you guys care about me. So I'm here to hear what you have to say, even if I don't love it. And I wish it was like that, perfect for every family served, but like, everybody's different. But that's the goal with each family, is that like you feel so safe with me. Like, I genuinely care about you because I tell you how much I care about you. And I always tell you the truth, that you can trust me and you can know I've got your best interest at heart. And that's how people can grow. Like, that's how they can get into with their actual authentic self, when they can be seen and still valued. Like, I actually see you, and I still think you're really, really precious. Yeah.
Reba. Dang it. That's the second time you've gotten me. And I think it's like a gift. And I feel like that entire gift floats around Restoration Room. I think you do it for one another. I think you do it for the families you serve. I think that there's just this constant pursuing of, you matter.
Yeah.
Like, you matter enough for me to sit with and do Legos. You matter enough for me to have a hard conversation with, that maybe you won't like it, but I feel like it's the right thing to say. You matter enough for me to welcome you with the snack, right? Like, and I feel like that's just maybe that's what it feels like. You walk in the doors and you matter. Maybe that's what I'm sensing when I get there.
Like, this is my place. None of our, we have clients that'll come in and they'll answer the phone, if it's ringing out front, because they know, like, this is I belong here. Right. This is my place just as much as it is your place. And this is my kid's place.
Right.
And we're all okay with that. Like, we're all on board with that. Like, we want everybody here to know how much they matter and how much this is their space. Yeah. We even like ask their caseworkers to be like really respectful of, like, not, even coming into their visits, because it would just shock a family. Like, if they're so used to having things the same, like, and someone else were to show up or something, they would be completely blown away, because they're so used to having this space be what they expect, and it's their space. So we're really intentional about even like our staff, like that whole space of the building is locked. Like other people that even work in the building can't get in there unless they have special access, because we just want everyone to know, like, we're gonna keep you safe here. You can know what to expect. You know who's gonna be here, when they're gonna be here.
Well, I think you have painted just a really beautiful picture of how we can take what we know and share. And, you were talking about, like, earlier, I think before we hit record, but you were talking about, like, the parents keep going because they want their kids to have the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I think when you serve families experiencing child welfare and the parents keep coming back, you're doing something right.
Yeah, right.
Because they have probably circled so many services and been so frustrated and not been able to meet the needs of their case plan or their court orders and all of that. Reba, thanks for being here today. You got me twice. That might be the record for bringing out some tears, but what you guys do is really special, and I am really excited to see you guys later this year. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. We'll see you. Take care.
The TBRI podcast is produced by the Care and Purpose Institute of Child Development at TCU. To learn more about TBRI and the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit child.tcu.edu/podcast.